One of the basic abundance teachings, if you've ever taken 4T or Absolute Abundance or any of the prosperity courses, is first you're in gratitude. When you're in gratitude, you see all that you have. But there's always that practice of adjust your consciousness first, because that's where you create from, individually and collectively. You are a mighty group of creators. And if one of us in a place of high consciousness can co-create and can create an experience, co-create with spirit, with divinity, and experience to our liking, can you imagine what 132 of us put together can do? That's an exponential increase. So the question is, what's mine to do? What is ours to do to get our consciousness in a place so that we can manifest the next phase of life for this spiritual community? There are two ways to go about that. Remember that as divine beings, we can create, and we create through the use of our divine abilities, our 12 powers, we call them. I want you to focus on 4 of them. From this day forward, I want you to focus on, in yourself individually, and therefore then collectively, the following 4 powers. If you're not familiar with, forgot this one. This is why we got to do it. Being comes before doing. Okay? So we shift our consciousness to being, and then the doing part falls into place. Throughout the next, however long this process is, or however short this process is, we center in being before we even start formulating a plan, before we even do anything. We center in being, because from that place is where we create. So here's the powers I want you to focus on. First is love, not the emotional touchy-feely thing. When I speak of the power of love, we're speaking of the ability to harmonize and attract to ourselves. It's the ability to desire. Desire is the thing that attracts us to and attracts outside in. And love, the divine power of love, is the ability to desire a certain outcome. Okay, but before we decide what the outcome is, we gotta develop that. We gotta tap into that. Charles Schulmore, our co-founder, said, love is a great harmonizer, as in bringing things together in harmony. Love. The second power, imagination. This one's been interesting. Some of the questions have been coming this week. What if we don't find a place in Amesbury? What if we don't find a place in the 50-mile radius? Lots of what-if questions. Remember what I say about misusing the power of our imagination? It's called what? Worry. Worry. So how about let's use our power of imagination to not worry and see all playing out well. And we don't need to know what that looks like right now. That comes into form as we move forward. Many of us want to know exactly what's going to happen so that then we can go back and imagine it. Right? We want to know what's going to happen so that then we can hold it in mind and imagine it. No, that's backwards. We imagine so that it comes to be. And you're saying, but wait, how can we imagine it if we don't know what we want yet? Because you imagine the experience that you want to have, not necessarily the details of it. The details come into play as you walk around. Imagine that this process unfolds with ease and grace. Imagine divine timing of however long or not long it takes to put this on a market, however long or not long it takes for a buyer to show up, however long or not long it takes for the next place to materialize. Can you imagine if all these things fell into perfect sync with each other? Can you imagine that? Yeah. You can also imagine, but that's not how things work. You can imagine that if you want. I'd rather you do the first one. Because when you do the first one, that's your experience. Collectively, let's do that. Our power of imagination. And as the plan unfolds and we start create details, that's important too. And I throw in a note of caution. Details lead to attachments, right? So there's a bit of a paradox there we have to work through. We want to envision what we want to experience, but if we throw in too many details, that may lead to attachment. And then something comes along that meets the needs, but because it doesn't match up to every T crossed or I dotted, we're going, that's not it. That's not it. Remember the story of the guy in the flood on the roof? And he's like, God save me. And a helicopter comes. He's like, nah, you're not God. And the boat came. No. And he dies and goes to heaven. He says, God, why didn't you save me? I sent you a helicopter and a boat. What else did you want? When we become attached, that's when we don't see the good as it unfolds. So yeah, we have preferences, not attachments. The next power, faith. I talked about faith last week. I remember what I said. Faith is the ability to believe in the final outcome of the demonstration, despite all outer evidence to the contrary. It is the magnetic power that draws unto us the heart's desires from invisible spiritual substance. Faith is a deep inner knowing that that which is sought is already ours for the taking. A deep inner knowing. When you have a deep inner knowing, you don't ask. When you have a deep inner knowing, you don't ask all the worrisome, open-ended questions. You just know. You just know. You don't even think about it. I'm pretty sure all of us have a deep inner knowing, so deep we don't even think about it, that we're going to draw a few more breaths in the next hour. No one's sitting here thinking, okay, lungs, keeping an eye on you. Do your thing. Inhale, exhale, inhale. No. Our knowing that our lungs are going to work is so deep and ingrained that we don't even think about it. Let's apply that here too. Deep inner knowing that this process is going to unfold so smoothly that we don't even think about it or worry about it. And finally, the power of elimination or release. Let go. And I'm not talking about the physical space. That'll come later. I'm talking about our inner thoughts, our inner doubts, our inner resistance, our inner, yeah, selling makes sense, but I wish we didn't have to do it. Let go of all of that. Let go of all of that. The more we release, the more our consciousness has room for the good. If we keep holding on, like a handful of sand when you try to grip it, stuff's slipping through our fingers. This is how we manifest life. Love, imagination, faith, elimination. These are the 4 powers I want you to focus on from this day forward. If you're unfamiliar with 12 powers, we got plenty of books in the bookstore. We got Divine Audacity. We got Heart-Centered Metaphysics. We got a book called Power Up. There's plenty of books in the bookstore. If you're not clear about what I'm talking about with the 12 powers, go get one and read upon these powers. Put them to work in your personal life individually so that collectively it's not an issue for us.